Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Hi and welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. Hope you're keeping safe and managing well. This show is aimed to give you actionable and practical skills which will improve your management approach and get the results you need. Now, before we start, can I ask you a massive favour to make sure you subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And please make sure that you share it wherever you get your podcasts. So, without further delay, let's get on with this week's show. So what is positional power? And it's still a driving force in organisations. The idea of authority derives from rank, is well established as a concept in management. When you read your books, you will always hear about this idea of having a hierarchy. If you think of a direct command and control organisation, your military springs to mind, with the ranks at the top giving orders down through the process to drive the aim of the mission. Now, obviously, that's changed quite a lot since the conception of the military, because a lot of the team sort of on the ground are actually quite autonomous. They make a lot of decisions themselves. And obviously, when you're getting orders given from the top, the orders become the person's in the situation. For example, a captain may give a sergeant a command. The sergeant then takes that command on as their own and makes it happen. And I bet most of you can recall a job when the boss was the head and they would have made the decisions for everyone and everyone would have followed. I'm sure that you've been in those situations. And the idea of this positional power is something that has slowly become less mainstream as management and society has evolved. We have moved away from a direct to a more collaborating way of working. We use our power of persuasion more than our power of rank. And our ability is seen by most people as the big point of difference when it comes to managing a team. I mean, most companies have an annual survey these days. There's lots more work in the factories and in the shop floor around what people's opinion is. Because rightly, if you get a motivated workforce that enjoys coming to work, they're going to come and add more value to the work when they're there. But don't be tricked. You know that there is some people still out there who would love to wave the positional power stick around, a bit like a cricket bat. And under the surface, this positional power still lives on in some. And we know these type of individuals. Sometimes it's a little bit of a power trip. You know, if we're honest, they've been promoted maybe recently, become more of a higher position, so it becomes a power trip for them. They also find it hard to find their way. Maybe they're struggling with their own confidence. You know, there's always that idea of the imposter syndrome. Is that person actually worthy of doing that job and worthy of driving that? And I think sometimes they use that positional power as a fallback. You know, when they make those kind of decisions, they're almost kind of saying, you know, I'm in charge, you will go and do it. Now you need to make sure that you can step back as a leader from that and take it from both sides. If you're living with a boss or a person who is using positional power, understand that might be where it comes from. And obviously, in your own work, there is a time where you're going to have to make hard decisions of people's livelihoods, around discipline and redundancies, and sometimes that position is there for that, because sometimes you need to be the person who's in charge. And just sometimes directly, when we've talked about in the past, situations where you've got a real emergency, you do need someone really to take charge and drive it forward. But when it gets down to that idea of a position becoming an ego, I feel that some people in the higher ranks sometimes need to have a look at the way that they are treated and speaking to others, because it does affect in a modern workplace the power of position. You know, you really need to understand that if you're treating people with respect and dignity, they will then reciprocate that back to you. And if you're using your role too much, and if you look at yourself and think, I'm using my role power, then you're going to make sure that these people are not connected and are not really engaged, and that means that people will fall away. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the idea of having a hierarchy. You're always going to have someone who's completely accountable at the top. As a person who is a general manager, it's my accountability is the final thing on the site that I run. But there's also a way that you don't want others to feel that just because you've got a rank, you should be treated in a certain different way. You know, we're 21st century, for Christ's sake. You don't want people speaking about rolling out the red carpet and making a fuss when people come. That abuse of that positional power just shows weakness. It doesn't show any real strength for the person. And if you're a person of that power and you can see this happening, and it is difficult, you sometimes need to step back. You need to have a think about that idea of 360 feedback. Am I actually using my positional power in the wrong way? And it might be something that they don't even realise they're doing. They're saying it in a forum as a joke in their mind. But for others, it may be really something that turns them off, shows that you're almost looking down on them. And that is a real big thing in our society, especially in the West, that we don't want to feel that we are being undervalued and the company is using that idea of positional power to drive people. Those days have hopefully moved on. I mean, the thought of the ego and the position power makes teams just not want to do that little bit extra. They'll do the 9 till 5. But the hearts and the brains won't be in it. Their input will probably be 50% of what they could be. And they're also getting switched off to the idea of the knowledge and the idea of driving it through knowing. And it's much easier, and I think much better, to use your personal power. The idea of knowing your team, working with them around a purpose, around the goals, involving them in most of the decisions you can, and then using your knowledge, because you are knowledgeable managers, you've got to a certain position, so you can use your knowledge base to drive. So instead of relying on a position, you can use your knowledge to make sure things are working in the right way. As ever, these ideas of concepts and positions will change as time goes on. So there will be times where you yourself may become into a higher position. And I think that's a good thing of this cast, is to think about, am I using that position in the right way? Am I using it to make sure we're getting the right results? And am I stepping in and using my positional power when needed? But actually, when I've worked with people and they've come to me, I would never start with a positional power. I'd always say to them, what do you need? How can I support you? What can I do? This idea of this servant leader, the idea that you're there to help them get better. You're there to help them deliver results. Because ultimately, the team delivering results means you, as the leader, delivers results. And if you're going to sit in an ivory tower and start to look at people and use your position to drive it, you'll end up with results that are very much half of what they could be. Well, thanks for listening. And as always, I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on the show, both good and bad. So please give your feedback. It's a gift at managermattpodcast@gmail.com. And also any new ideas you'd like for some shows in the future, please drop me a line and let's see if we can do something about that. I'm always here to help and try to help you improve your manager's skills. Right, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thanks for listening and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.